Of course, here is the text cleaned up for readability with corrected punctuation, standardized names, paragraph breaks, and fixes for the UNC placeholders. My alpha wouldn't let me go. His obsession has become my addiction. If someone asked me what my biggest flaw was, I'd probably say it's my mouth. Not the shape of eater euros though, yeah. I've been told more than once that my lips look like they're made for kissing euros, but my actual inability to shut up when I'm supposed to. I'm a beater, a troublesome beater, as some people like to call me. And before you think that's some kind of tragic thing, nope, I'm fine with it. I'd rather stay single than hop into the bed of every alpha that comes wagging their tail at me like some eater puppy. Some people act like being a beater means you have to fight harder for attention in this crazy alpha omega obsessed world. But honestly, I think it's the opposite. I don't need to please anyone. I don't need to purr when they growl. I just need to be me, which apparently makes some people want to strangle me or kiss me, or both. Jin-Soo, you've got a death wish, my friend Mingyu whispered, nudging me with his elbow as we leaned against the counter at the bar. It was Friday night, and the club was buzzing with the usual mess of pheromones, cheap cologne, and desperation. The bass thumped hard enough to make my ribs vibrate, and colored lights swept over the crowd like predators searching for prey. I sipped my soda, not because I don't drink, but because I like to watch. Death wish? I asked, glancing at him with an innocent blink. What did I do this time? Mingyu's eyes darted toward the other side of the room. You see him? I followed his gaze, and that's when my stomach did a weird little flip. Oh, him. He was standing near the VIP area, leaning casually against the railing, a glass of something expensive looking in his hand. Black shirt, tailored slacks, sleeves rolled up just enough to show lean, veined forearms. His hair was dark, neat, but with just enough mess to look effortless. His eyes euros god, those eyes. Cold, sharp, like he could slice you open with one look and decide whether to eat you or spare you. That, Mingyu hissed, is Kong Du Hyan. I know who Kong Du Hyan is, I said, my voice may be a little too flat. Everyone in this city knows who Kong Du Hyan is. You should not be making eye contact with him. Too late. He was already looking at me, and not just a passing glance. His gaze was heavy, lingering, as if he'd been watching me longer than I realized. I smiled, couldn't help it. Mingyu groaned. You're insane. He's an alpha, I finished for him. Yeah, I've noticed. Big deal. No, he's the alpha. Du Hyan doesn't date. He doesn't flirt. He doesn't even smile unless it's for blood money. People say he's dangerous. Dangerous is boring unless they have good conversation, I said, taking another sip. And he looks like someone who could make me very, very bored. I was lying. He didn't look boring at all. I thought maybe he'd lose interest after a moment, but he didn't. If anything, his gaze got sharper, more intent, and before I could turn away, he started walking toward me. Mingyu swore under his breath. You're on your own. I'm not getting murdered tonight. He disappeared into the crowd. I stayed put. Du Hyan's steps were slow, deliberate, the kind of walk that made people part for him without realizing it. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell his cologne euros, something dark and expensive, laced with the faintest trace of his alpha pheromones. Jin-Soo, he said, his voice low, smooth. He knew my name. That alone should have been a red flag. Du Hyan, I replied, tilting my head just slightly. What do you want? His eyes flickered with something unreadable. You've been avoiding me. That made me laugh. Quiet, but sharp. You say that like it's a bad thing. He leaned closer, his breath ghosting against my ear. It is, for you. Du Hyan wasn't smiling, but there was a hint of amusement in his tone, like he was humoring me. I should have backed off. I should have rolled my eyes and walked away. Instead, I found myself holding his gaze, my pulse skipping in a way that annoyed me. Let me guess, I said lightly. You think you're the exception. You think I'll fall for you like everyone else does. He straightened, eyes darkening. No, I don't think you'll fall for me, he said. I know you will. It should have sounded arrogant. It should have pissed me off. Instead, it sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. Wow, I said with a smirk. You really don't hear the word no often, do you? I've heard it, he said, his voice dropping even lower. It just never lasts. That was the first night Kang Du Hyan made it clear I was in trouble, and trouble, apparently, was exactly my type. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight stabbing me in the eyes and a persistent buzz from my phone. I groaned, pulled the blanket over my head, and reached blindly for it. Unknown number, you should eat breakfast. I blinked. No greeting, no emoji, just a command. I typed back without thinking. Me, who is this? 3 dots appeared, then stopped. Then they appeared again. Unknown number, Kang Du Hyan. I sat up in bed. What the hell? It hadn't even been 12 hours since the club. I didn't remember giving him my number. Actually, I knew I hadn't, which meant he'd gotten it from somewhere else. Creepy, yes. Weirdly flattering. Also, yes. Me, how did you get my number? His reply was instant. Kang Du Hyan, don't worry about it. That made me laugh, though I wasn't sure why. Me, you're assuming I'm worried. Kang Du Hyan, you should be. I thought that was the end of it. I put my phone down, rolled out of bed, and shuffled toward the kitchen. My apartment was small, just a 1-bedroom with a balcony that overlooked a street of tiny cafes and a bookstore. But I loved it. It was mine. No roommates, no surprise visitors, no one telling me what to do. Except apparently now I had an Alfred texting me like he owned the place. I opened the fridge, staring at the pitiful remains of last night's takeaway, when someone knocked at the door. I frowned. It's 8:00 in the morning. Who the hell? Another knock. Firm, not impatient, just inevitable. When I opened the door, I nearly dropped my phone. Du Hyan was standing there, dressed in a crisp black suit, holding a paper bag that smelled like fresh pastries. You're not a morning person, he observed, glancing at my messy hair. I crossed my arms. What are you doing here? Breakfast. He pushed the bag into my hands and stepped inside like he'd been here 100 times before. I stared after him. You can't just euros Jin-soo, he said, turning to face me. Do you like croissants or not? My brain stalled. Yes. Good. Sit. We ended up at my tiny kitchen table, the scent of buttery pastries filling the air. Du Hyan poured coffee from a thermos he'd apparently also brought, because of course he had, and slid a cup toward me. This is insane, I muttered. You said that last night, too, he said casually, breaking his croissant in half. You keep saying it, but you haven't told me to leave. That's because I was too shocked, I said. Now I'm just confused. He met my eyes. Don't be. I arched a brow. Oh, and why is that? His lips curved. Not quite a smile, but close enough to be dangerous. Because I'm not going anywhere. Halfway through breakfast, my phone buzzed again. This time it was from Minggu. Minggu Jin-soo, what did you do? I glanced at Du Hyan. Did you threaten my friends? He didn't even look guilty. No, I narrowed my eyes. That was way too fast. I didn't threaten them, he said. I just told them you're unavailable. I choked on my coffee. Unavailable? His gaze didn't waver. To anyone but me. There it was. That sharp, possessive edge I'd heard rumors about. I should have been annoyed. Instead, my heart was doing this ridiculous fast-paced thing that made it hard to breathe. Later, when he finally left after insisting on washing the Dishesu euros because apparently ruthless alphas could also have Manasu euros, I found myself leaning against the door, staring at the handle. Part of me wanted to lock it, part of me wanted to leave it wide open. That night, I dreamed of him. Not the dangerous version, not the ice-cold businessman people whispered about. In the dream, he was leaning over me, his lips brushing mine in a slow, almost lazy kiss, one hand on my waist, the other tangled in my hair. It was warm, unhurried, inevitable. When I woke, my heart was pounding, and my phone had a new message. Kong Du Hein, dream of me. I should have ignored the message. I should have rolled over, gone back to sleep, and pretended Kong Du Hein didn't exist. Instead, I typed back, "Me you wish." His reply came faster than I could put the phone down. "Kong Du Hein, you're right. I don't wish. I expect." I stared at the screen, my lips twitching. God, he was infuriating. And addictive. Like coffee I knew would give me heart palpitations, but couldn't stop drinking. The day passed normally. Well, as normally as it could when you had a dangerous alpha dropping into your life like a storm. I had plans to meet Minggu for coffee in the afternoon, mostly so he could yell at me for not running the other way. The cafe was packed when I got there. Soft jazz hummed in the background, and the smell of freshly ground beans clung to the air. I spotted Minggu at a table near the window. "You're late," he said as I slid into the seat across from him. "You're always early," I shot back, pulling off my scarf. He sighed. "Jin Su, be honest. How deep are you in with him?" "I'm not in anything," I said. "We've barely euros, barely what?" A new voice cut in. I froze. Minggu's eyes went wide. Du Hein was standing right there in his perfect black coat and gloves, looking like he'd stepped out of some glossy magazine ad. His gaze shifted between me and Minggu, sharp and assessing. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I was in the area," he said smoothly, "and I saw you through the window." He gestured for Minggu to get up. "You can move." His tone left no room for argument. "Excuse me?" Minggu spluttered. Du Hein didn't even blink. "I'll be taking this seat." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "You're impossible." "Yes," he said, sliding into the seat beside me instead of across from me. His thigh brushed mine, deliberately, I was sure. The conversation after that was tense, to say the least. Du Hein barely acknowledged Minggu except to correct him when he said something about me keeping my options open. "Jin Su doesn't need other options," Du Hein said flatly. "He has me." I nearly choked on my latte. "That's euros not." "It's exactly what it is," he said, and for the briefest moment, his hand rested on my knee under the table. A promise." Minggu gave me a look that said, "You're doomed," before making an excuse to leave. When we were alone, I turned to Du Hein. "You can't just scare off my friends." "I didn't scare him," he said, sipping his coffee. "I just clarified things." Before I could finish, he leaned in, not slowly, not tentatively, just a sudden, decisive movement that closed the space between us. His lips pressed to many euros, firm, warm, hungry. I froze for a heartbeat, my mind screaming, "This is a bad idea." But then his hand cupped the back of my neck, and the kiss deepened. His tongue brushed mine, slow and deliberate, making my pulse spike so hard it almost hurt. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them. "There," he said. "Now I know." "What?" I managed, breathless. "That you're mine." The walk home afterward was a blur. My lips still tingled, and every time I caught the faint scent of his cologne on my scarf, my stomach flipped. I should have felt cornered, trapped. Instead, all I could think about was how much I wanted him to do it again. That night, my phone buzzed. "Kang Do Hyun, you taste better than I imagined." I stared at the screen, heat crawling up my neck. "Me, you're insane." His reply was instant. "Kang Do Hyun, insanely into you." The first thing I noticed when I opened my apartment door that night was a smell. Not bad, nothing rotting or burnt, but a warm, deep scent that clung to the air like velvet. It was him. I froze. "Do Hyun." His voice came from the kitchen, calm and smooth. "You should lock your door." I stepped inside slowly, shutting it behind me. "You broke in." "No," he said, leaning against the counter with a glass of water in his hand. "You gave me your spare key." "I did not." His lips curved faintly. "Not yet." I tossed my bag on the couch. "You can't just show up whenever you are euros." "I can," he said, walking toward me. Each step was slow, deliberate, like he wanted me to feel the ground shift under my feet. "And I will." I swallowed, trying to ignore the way my heart sped up. "You're insane." He stopped in front of me, close enough that the heat from his body reached mine. "Maybe, but you're the reason for it." I should have stepped back. I didn't. When his fingers brushed my jaw, my breath hitched. "You kissed me today," I said, my voice low. "I'll do it again." Before I could answer, his mouth was on mine, hotter, hungrier than in the cafe. One hand cupped the back of my neck. The other slid around my waist, pulling me flush against him. The kiss was all-consuming, the kind that made my knees weaken and my thoughts scatter. I clung to his coat, tilting my head to deepen it. He groaned softly, the sound vibrating through me, and I swear I could feel his restraint fraying. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. "You drive me insane, Jin Soo. You're not exactly easy to handle yourself," I muttered, but it came out breathless. His eyes darkened. "Then stop trying to handle me. Let me have you." I laughed, quiet, shaky. "You think it's that simple?" "It is." His hand slid under the hem of my sweater, his palm warm against my skin. My breath caught, my body reacting faster than my brain could form excuses. For a moment, the world narrowed to the sound of my heartbeat and the feel of his fingers tracing lazy circles on my back. Then he kissed me again, slower this time, coaxing, almost teasing. I hated that I wanted more. We ended up on the couch, me straddling his lap before I realized how dangerous that was. His hands gripped my hips, his thumbs pressing into the fabric of my jeans. "You're trouble," he murmured against my neck. "So are you." "Difference is," he said, biting lightly at my jaw, "I don't run from it." It would have gone further, a lot further, if my phone hadn't rung. I froze, pulling back. Do Hyun's jaw tightened. "Don't. It might be important," I said. He held my gaze for a long, tense moment, then let me slide off his lap. 2 minutes. It was Mindu. "Jin Soo, where are you?" "I need euros," I cut him off. "I'm fine. I'll call you later." When I turned back, Do Hyun was still watching me, his expression unreadable. "Something wrong?" I asked. He stood, adjusting his coat. "Just remembering that I don't like sharing." And then he left without another word, without another touch, leaving me standing there with my pulse still racing and the faint taste of him on my lips. It started with a text. Kong Du Hien, where are you? I was at a bar across town with Mingdu, the same one where this whole mess had started. The music was loud, the air heavy with sweat and perfume. But for once, I wasn't in the mood to watch anyone. My mind had been spinning all day, replaying the feel of Du Hien's hands on me, the weight of his stare when he'd said he didn't like sharing me with Mingdu. No response. 10 minutes later, I felt it. That prickle at the back of my neck, that shift in the air. I turned. He was there. Du Hien walked through the crowd like it was parting for him. People looked at him. Of course they did, but his eyes never left mine. When he reached me, he didn't greet Mingdu, didn't greet me either. He just took my wrist and said, "We're leaving." I pulled back. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." I glanced at Mingdu, who looked like he wanted to disappear. "I am in the middle of euros, not anymore," Du Hien said, his voice low enough to cut under the music. "I told you before, I don't share." Outside, the night air was cold, but his grip on my hand was warm, almost burning. He didn't let go until we were at his car. "You can't just drag me out like that," I snapped. "Yes, I can." His jaw was tight. "And you let me." That shut me up because he was right. I could have fought harder, could have made a scene. Instead, I'd followed. We didn't talk much during the drive, but I could feel the tension in him, coiled and restless. When we reached his apartment, euros, a sleek, high-rise place with glass walls and city lights, euros, I barely had time to look around before he had me backed against the door. "You drive me insane," he said, his breath warm against my cheek. "Do you know how many Alvars want you? How many stare when you walk into a room?" "I'm not interested in them," I said quietly. His eyes searched mine, then stopped testing me. And then he kissed me, euros, hard, almost desperate. His hands framed my face, his body pressing mine into the door until I could feel every inch of him. The kiss was heat and teeth and the faintest tremor of restraint, like he was holding back something feral. When his lips moved to my jaw, then my neck, my knees buckled. His hands slid down, gripping my hips as if he could anchor me there forever. "Say you're mine," he murmured against my skin. "I'm not." His mouth found that spot just below my ear, and my breath hitched. "Say it, Jin Su." I didn't mean to. I didn't plan it, but it slipped out, quiet and certain. "I'm yours." His exhale was sharp, almost a growl. In the next heartbeat, he was pulling me toward the bedroom. The rest blurred into heat and skin and the sound of his voice in my ear, euros, low, reverent, and just a little dangerous. He kissed me like he'd been starving, touched me like he was learning every inch of me for the first time. And when we finally fell apart together, his arms stayed locked around me, like he didn't trust the world not to take me away. Later, tangled in his sheets, I traced lazy circles on his chest. "You're still insane, probably," he said, pressing a kiss to my hair. "But you're mine. That's all that matters." I snorted. "You're bossy. You love it." I didn't answer because maybe I did. Some people might call it obsession. Some might call it trouble. But lying there, listening to his heartbeat under my ear, I realized I didn't care what anyone else called it. For the first time, the idea of belonging to someone didn't feel like losing myself. It felt like coming home.